The war had lasted less than 2 weeks, but it had wrecked much of Amman. In the suburbs especially, mile after mile of ruined buildings testified to the destructive firepower of the Jordanian army. Scores of burned-out cars littered the streets. First reports put casualties as high as 20,000, but incredibly, less than 1,000 actually died. On the international front, the main development in the Middle East was the achievement of a 3-month ceasefire with Israel. But along the canal, the shelling stopped too late to save the city of Suez. With its population evacuated and its buildings wrecked, Suez became a ghost town. The ceasefire should have led to talks between the two sides, but Israel claimed Egypt had moved missiles into the canal zone after the ceasefire began and refused to negotiate until they were removed. This was the position when the Arab world was dealt a blow from which it's still reeling: the sudden death of President Nasser from a heart attack. Arabs reacted to the passing of their leader in different ways. In Cairo, thousands of Egyptians, grief-stricken to the point of hysteria, ran amok through the streets of the city. Among the leaders of the Arab world, the sense of loss was no less great. The question of Nasser's successor demanded immediate consideration. This man, Anwar Sadat, had been appointed vice president by Nasser less than a year before his death. He now took over as president-elect and was later confirmed in office by a large majority in a national referendum. It was thought that Sadat triumphed over all other rivals because he was acceptable to the Russians, on whom Egypt depended for virtually all her military aid. The new president pledged himself to continue President Nasser's policies. In its 1,000-year history, Cairo had experienced nothing like the funeral of President Nasser. 5 million Arabs packed the Egyptian capital to escort their dead leader to his last resting place. As the flag-draped coffin was borne through the streets, soldiers and spectators alike wept openly. As a politician, President Nasser was often unsuccessful, but as a national leader, his stature was immense. His people mourned him as they would a father. It was thought at the time that Nasser's passing would create further instability in the Middle East, but events have proved such fears groundless.